So you want to make a video game. Well, that is what we're going to be talking about today, guys. Welcome. This is my first YouTube video in a long time, so apologies if it's kind of rambly or whatever, but I'm going to do my best in this video to kind of walk you guys through what I would recommend for a beginner trying to get started learning video games. Kind of show you the path that I took and kind of what that looks like. So here we go. To start off, I'm going to be showing you guys a game engine called Godot. Godot is a free open source tool that anybody can go download, again, for free right now and get started making games. So that's what we're going to do. Just hop on Google, just search Godot download, that's Godot. And go ahead and hit the first link, download Godot 4. Assuming you're on Windows, go ahead and download the latest stable release for Windows. At the time of this recording, that is 4.3. Or you can also download the latest and greatest preview build, which is not a stable release, but it's basically the latest features as they come out. If you want to do that, you go to the bottom, go to Preview Builds, click that, and it'll take you to the latest build. Currently, that is 4.4 RC3, Release Candidate 3. So probably within the next couple weeks, Godot 4.4 will be released, and that'll be the latest stable build. So either one you can download. Just click Windows or Mac if you're on Mac, and go ahead and get that downloaded. Once you have that downloaded, you're going to get a zip folder, and inside that zip folder, if you know how to extract, just go right click extract all if you're on Windows, and then open up the exe. And once you do that, you'll be greeted with a screen like this. Probably won't be any projects in here. These are just projects that I have done before, but this is basically the opening screen that you'll see when you start up Godot. So what is Godot? Like I said, Godot is a free open source game engine that you can use to make games. So this video is mostly going to be exploring the basics of using Godot and kind of what your first project might look like. So if you go over here, these are your options. Go ahead and hit create. That'll create a new project for you. And it's going to say selected path not empty. Basically, you want to start your project in an empty folder. So if you hit browse and just go to wherever you want your games to be stored. For me, I'm going to do a folder in my documents called Godot. And I'll just create a new folder here called tutorial and select current folder. So select any empty folder, and then this should turn green and say project folder will be automatically created. So it'll create a new folder in the folder that you selected with the name of your game project, essentially. So I'm going to call this tutorial project or whatever you want to call it. And you'll see over here it's going to create a folder called tutorial project in there. And you can turn that off with this create folder button, and then it'll just use whatever folder you had selected. Down here for renderer, I'm going to select compatibility, and I'd recommend you do the same starting out. This is going to be the most, I guess by the name, compatible renderer for your project. It'll work on pretty much any device. So if you want to make a mobile game, you can run it on mobile. If you want to make a desktop executable game, you can do that. It's going to work better on lower end devices, all that good stuff. It might, if you have certain like 3D games or more advanced rendering, you might need to select forward plus. But for now, I recommend just going with compatibility, especially if it's just a 2D game. Version control. If you're not familiar with version control, that is basically how you can track changes of your project over time. So if you're working on a project, let's say with multiple people, or if you're trying to work on the same project across multiple computers, you might want to use version control so that you can back up your project files and kind of work on them from different devices or collaborating with different people. So that's what version control is. Even if you're just working by yourself, I still recommend using version control. This button basically just initializes a Git file, which is something that's used for Git version control. Don't really need to worry about that now, but just as a heads up. So I'd leave that alone. Edit now, I think that'll just open the project once I hit create. So let's go ahead and hit create. And you'll see the opening screen here for Godot. And you're greeted with this menu. So that's it. You've created your first project. I'm going to try to quickly go through how you can kind of navigate this. First thing you'd want to do is save a scene. So let's create a new scene here. If you see on the left, it says create root node, and it has a bunch of different options here. And we're in the scene tab over here. A scene in Godot is kind of like your basic thing of like what the player would see when they boot up your game. So right now, if I try to hit run, it's going to say you haven't created anything yet. You don't have a main scene. The main scene is like what it will show the player when the game like initially starts. So we need to create a main scene. If you have a scene already, you can hit select, but we don't have any yet, so hit cancel. So the first thing we got to do for a Godot project is make a scene. I'm going to hit 2D scene. Let's say I want to make a 2D game. That would make sense to do a 2D scene. 3D game, maybe you want to do a 3D scene. User interface, we'll talk about that a little more later, but for now I'm just going to hit 2D scene. And it creates a new 2D scene for me in Godot, and you'll see that the background has kind of changed. If I were to have created a 3D scene instead, it would kind of be like this, where you've got this 3D view. So, but for now, we're just going to do a 2D scene. Just going to assume we're making a 2D game. And I'm going to save this. So if we do Control S to save, and then I'll save this as main.tscn. TSCN is the file extension in Godot for a scene. So any scene you create will have that file extension, and you'll see down here we now have main.tscn, and this is our file system browser. So any files in your project are going to show up here, and the kind of home folder name is just called res. And this works like any basic file browser. You can right click here, expand, collapse, and what you'll probably find yourself doing often is right click and open in File Manager. So this will go through your OS file system, so Windows, and it will open the folder in Windows Explorer. And now you can kind of see the folders and files that we've created for our project. So if you remember when we started it, we had it create this tutorial project folder, and now all of our project files are in here. And this is basically the res folder, as it's called in the file system. Okay. So let's go back here. We want to try to basically run our first scene. So I'm going to rename this main just so it matches the scene. And now we're going to go back here again and hit the run project or F5 button. Actually, I don't know if you can see that because of my face, so I'll move that down here. So on the top right, there's run project or F5. And now we can select a scene to run. So since we've created a scene, now we can hit select current, and that will just run the current scene that we have open. And the game will start. So there you go. There's our scene. Our game right now is basically just this empty scene with this gray looking background. And we're basically just going to iterate on this from here until we have something that looks more like a game. So there we go. first thing you might want to do is maybe you want to change the color of this background, right? Maybe you don't want gray, maybe you want white or black or whatever. And I'll show you a quick and easy way to do that. So go over here back to main, right click, add child node. And now we're going to start looking at these control nodes. I don't want to get too complicated right now, so let's just add a color rect. And down here, when you're adding nodes to your scene, you'll see these descriptions at the bottom. So if you click on them, it'll tell you basically what that node does. So this is a control that displays a solid color rectangle, which is basically what we want. So perfect. I'm going to select that, and you'll see we get a little rectangle here. And now's really where we're going to start adding things to this game. So these little dots here, you can click and drag to expand the size of the rectangle. So if you wanted a white background, that's basically all you need to do. Just hit play again, and there you go. White background, pretty easy. Now if you want to change the color of this, you'll see on the right hand side we have it's called the inspector panel, and this will allow you to change the properties of whatever object you have selected in here. So if I click off of the object, you'll see that goes away, and then if I click again in here, you'll see that pop back up. Or another way you can select objects is through the scene panel here. So if I click main, you'll see it pulls up this main over here and node 2D, which is the type of object. And then if I click the color rect again, that'll bring up the color rect again over here. So just something to note, you can select objects either clicking on them in the middle here or through the scene tab. And that'll be important later on, because objects can have different kind of hierarchies and kind of be on top of each other, so it might be kind of hard to click them in the middle here. So it's good to remember you can do that from the scene tree. Anyway, let's go ahead to our color rect here and change the color. So you can see we clicked on this white box here, and that pulled up a color wheel. I just realized my screen is a little off. There we go. Hopefully you can see that better now. Yeah, so color, and here we can change from black to white and see that, or we can modify the individual RGB colors here. Say we want red. There you go. I'm going to create a black screen, I think, and we'll do that, see how that looks. Go ahead and hit run again, or F5, and now we have black screen. Perfect. So let's say maybe you're making a game and you need a main menu. I think that's what we're going to go ahead and make this. We're going to make this a main menu for our game. We already have our background, so I'm just going to rename this background. And now we're just going to keep adding nodes to our main scene until we have something that looks like a main menu. So something you might want is a title. Says like the title of the game, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to search for a node called label. And this is basically just a text container. As you can see down here, control for displaying plain text. Double click that, add it to the scene. Now this might take a little bit of finagling to get working, but you'll see in a second. So I'm just going to call this my game. And it's kind of small, but you can see we did get the my game text up here. And I'm going to scroll down, and this is something you'll probably be doing a lot. Theme overrides. If you want to change the size of the font, you go to font size and just scale that up. That might be a little too big. Let's do 96 maybe. I'll scroll back up here. Alignment is at the top, so horizontal, vertical alignment. So if we want to center this text in the box, hit center. And I'll do the same for vertical. And now we have a little centered piece of text here. And now I want to show you something called anchors. This is anything that's green in terms of a node. We were talking about the UI control stuff earlier. Basically, anything that inherits from this control node class is going to have kind of a green icon. And that means that its position can be controlled from something called anchors. So I'm going to show you how that works real quick. You see this little green circle here? This is the anchor preset, and this helps you control the position of your control basically. So click this drop down arrow and you'll see there's a bunch of options here: top left, top right, center, etc. So if I click on one of these, for example, top right, that moves the control to top right. But I didn't create a base control yet, so let me do that. It'll make a little more sense. So create a control node. And maybe I'll just do this and then explain, but I'm creating a control node, making it full rect, and then I'm going to change the size of it. There we go. This is always a little bit confusing when you set it up. Actually, I'll do top left, and then yeah, I'll do the same for this one. Full rect. There we go. And then I'll add the label back in. Okay. So what just happened? Well, now when I click these anchor presets, you can see that top right puts it on the top right, top left puts it on the top left, center puts it in the middle, etc. So how did I do that? It starts by creating a basic control node that is kind of the container and matches the size of your project. So if you go to project settings, go down to I think it's window, display window, yeah, viewport width, viewport height. This is the resolution of your project. The default is 1152 by 648. So that's the width and height of your game that it will be displayed by default. So you can see here, I guess I have to close that. Oh. Okay. This is being weird. There we go. Close. Yep, so now if I go to control, you can see I made the transform size 1152 by 648, which is the same size as my game project. And then the anchors preset for this, I don't think really matters. I just set top left, which I think is the default. I feel like full rect probably also, maybe not. Okay, so maybe just stick with top left. Anyway, once you have a control node that is the size of your game window, you can then add things, other control nodes to that, and they will scale based on that size. So now that I have this reference control node, what I did was I went into the background and I changed the anchor mode of our rectangle to be full rect. So what full rect will do is it'll basically stretch it out to be the same size as the parent control node. So in Godot, everything's kind of a hierarchy or a tree. So the top level node here is our 2D scene that we created, main. And then these other ones I created as children. So I did add child node. So when I say parent child, I basically just mean which one is at a higher level in the scene tree. So main is at the top, and then under that you have control, and then under control you have background and label. So these anchor presets will configure it based on the parent control. So since the main control is the size of the game window, when I do full rect, it will basically expand this one out to be the same size as that parent control. So hopefully that makes sense. I can explain more if people have questions in the comments, but it takes a little bit to figure out. But once you do, control is a very powerful node type for your UI. So anyway, and I did the same thing here with label. And you can kind of see if I hit center, it'll go in the middle, etc. So this reason you might want to do this rather than just dragging and dropping things wherever you want is this will help you scale your game based on whatever device you're running it on. So let's say you're running it on like a phone or a tablet. It's going to have a much smaller screen size than like a PC. So using control nodes basically just helps you scale everything basically so it looks good on whatever device you're running it on. And to that point, one other thing we'll want to do in project settings, go down to display window and go to the stretch mode. This is really important. A lot of people kind of miss this starting out, and I think it's really easy to fix. So I just kind of want to show how you're going to do this for like 90% of your projects. Right now, stretch mode is disabled. So if I hit run, yeah, okay. So you can see if I expand the size of the window, the game kind of just stays the same size, like our black rectangle. It's not stretching or anything. Go full screen, just kind of stays in the middle. And maybe you want this, but a lot of times you want your game to fill up whatever space it's been given. So if you want to run a game in full screen, you want the game to take up the whole screen. If you want to enable this, go back to where we were here, project settings. Just change this to canvas items. Viewport is another option. Not going to worry about that right now, but most of the time you want canvas items. And then aspect, I believe I usually do aspect keep, and that will make sure everything kind of looks the same and it's not stretching in weird ways. So as long as you have this on canvas item here, I believe that will work. So now we go. Okay, it's still doing that. So let me turn off embed real quick and see if that fixes it. I haven't used the new game screen too much. That's kind of a new feature. So yeah, okay. So something with the game window is doing that. I don't know exactly yet because I haven't messed with it. But basically in Godot, this game tab was just added in the most recent 4.4 update. So in the older versions, it would kind of just look like this, and there wouldn't be any menus or anything. So I'm more used to this, so that's probably what I'll just use. But yeah, so you might have to turn that off if you want it to scale properly. Yeah, perfect. So now if we make this, stretch this out or shrink it or do whatever, it will just kind of scale magically to whatever size we have. So you can do full screen or normal, whatever. So perfect. Yeah, so now I don't want this video to be too long. It's probably already getting kind of long, so I'll just show maybe a couple other things real quick. We haven't really done any coding or anything like that yet, just purely getting used to the game engine. So maybe another tutorial if people are interested. I'll start getting into code and stuff. But I do want to show you how to actually export this so you can actually share it with your friends and play it online or whatever. So I'll do that, and then maybe in the next video we'll talk about making maybe some buttons and adding some basic like gameplay, maybe like a platformer type game, something like that. People are interested. But for now, I'll just show you how to export this project. So if you go into your project folder, and again, you can do that from here. Just right click Res, go to Open File Manager, and there you go. So we'll go in here. We'll make a new folder, call it exports, or I usually do underscore exports. And honestly, you might not want this folder in your project folder, but for now, I'm just going to do it this way because exports are usually kind of big. So if you're saving your project on like GitHub or something, you probably don't want to upload that. So you'd go into your git ignore and ignore this exports folder. But not really a big deal for right now. We just want to have a folder where we can export it. I'm going to do two exports here. I'm going to do a exe for Windows, and I'm going to do a web build, which is going to be HTML5, so you could play this like in a browser. And Godot makes this really pretty easy. Hopefully I don't have to download the export templates again. We'll see, because I just downloaded this. Okay. So we are going to do that. Basically, if you download the latest beta release or release candidate, it doesn't come with the export templates installed, so you just have to download those. You'll get an error down here. Just click Manage Export Templates, and just I could probably delete these other ones, but download and install, and it should be able to detect where the files are hosted at and just automatically download those. They are kind of big, so if you do want to export a game, you are going to start seeing that like 1 gigabyte file space for the export templates. Just something to keep in mind. We'll go ahead and download those. So I know I went kind of fast. I tried to just cover the basics of getting used to the editor and exporting a game. I know we didn't really add a whole lot, but I know it's already probably getting kind of long. So for this video, I'll just show how to export this project, and then we can go ahead and get into the meat of it in the next video. Anyway, go back to export. You're going to see a warning here if you try to do a Windows export. That's pretty common. The main settings I usually do are embed PCK. That just gives you one less file to worry about, and it just includes the PCK file in the executable. And then I usually go down to modify resources, turn that off, and wow, the warning went away. I don't know why this is always enabled by default, but it is, so you got to turn it off if you want that warning to go away. Go to export path, click this little button here, and go into your exports folder, and we're going to call this game.exe. Hit save, and then you can go ahead and hit export project now if you want. Hit save. We'll go back to your export folder, and now you should see game.exe here. Go ahead and double click that. And there you have it. There's my game. So this is a fully, deployed Windows executable. So if you send this to somebody, they don't need to have Godot installed. It should just work on any Windows machine. And there's the console version, which I don't think that you need. So you just copy this game.exe. And let's say you want it on the desktop. Paste that over to the desktop. Click it there. should run just fine. So you can share this with your friends. Say, hey, I made a game with a label. And again, if you expand it, it should just expand, take up all the space for you. Yeah, so that's how to do a Windows build. Pretty simple. That's usually one of the easier ones. Now, if you want to do web, that's usually a little more complicated, but not too bad. I'll try to show you how to do that. So again, just hit Add Preset and then Web. And then on Export Path, click that button. We'll do the Web folder. Now this is important for web builds, at least a lot of websites you want to host them on, like itch.io. The main file needs to be called index.html. Kind of arbitrary, I think, but that's just how a lot of hosting sites do it. So I would just call it index.html. Hit save. Don't think there's any options here you actually need to worry about. On older versions of Godot, you had to deal with, I forget what it was called. There was some kind of cross isolation, something or other you had to mess with. But nowadays, in the latest version of Godot, it works pretty well out of the box. So just do index.html and hit export, and then save. And that will export it. Now, a real handy feature in Godot is it actually has a built-in web server you can just run. So go up here to the top, hit remote deploy, and then run in browser. That will start a web server that will actually host your web export game, and it'll launch it in the browser. So there's the game. And you can see it basically just runs. And I forget what the hotkey is for full screen. It's like F11 or something. I forget, but this will run in a full screen as well. And if you upload it to a site like itch.io, it'll configure that for you. And I guess to kind of close out this tutorial, I'll just kind of show you how to do that real quick. I guess I'll just go on here. So, just as a final note here, like I was saying, if you want to share your games with other people, you go to this itch.io website and make an account. Then you can upload your web game for other people to play. Or you can also upload your exe and people can download it. So basically you just go to your file here and go upload new project. Call it something like tutorial. It'll create the URL here for you. Don't have to worry about that. Kind of project, since we did a web build, it's going to be HTML. We're going to have an embedded game that can be played in the browser. Release status, you can click whatever you want. I usually do prototype. Go down to uploads, and you can go ahead and select your exe. Let's see if I can find it. Documents, Godot, export. There it is. Game.exe. Now, one thing you have to do for uploading web games, a lot of times you're going to have to provide it as a zip file. So if you just go to your web folder and select all the files in there, go to compress, zip, call this index.zip, and now we can upload that zip file to itch.io. Another thing you'll need to update is the viewport dimensions, which is just the screen size. So if you remember, it's 1152 by 648. And then up here, for index.zip, since this is our web file, just select this file will be played in the browser, and that'll automatically set things up for you. Another thing I like to do is, since this is a Windows executable, I usually click this Windows button. That just lets people know hey, this is a Windows game. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I usually like to add this full screen button here because it's very common that different browsers will have different settings. For example, if you play this on Firefox, usually it launches it full screen by default, whereas in Chrome it will do embedded. Um, so I like to just add the full screen button to give people the option to go into full screen whenever they want. Um, the mobile friendly is just if you don't click this, it just says, hey, this game might not work on your device if you open it in a web browser. It doesn't actually hurt anything to have it on or off. Yep. Then down here, some other options. Don't really have to worry about any of this. Go ahead and just hit save and view page. And you'll get this thing here. Just hit run game. And you'll get a splash screen for Godot. This can be configured too, but won't worry about it right now. And there you have it. My game. Very good. And you'll see down here, this is the full screen button that Itch added. So you click that, and you're in full screen. And just hit escape, go back. And then if somebody wants to download it, they just hit download now. And then take me to downloads, and it'll give you this exe file. So all you have to do if you want your share this with your friends, just go to the page, copy this link, and send that. So yeah. Now one other thing I forgot to mention is if you go back here, edit game, the top. If you do want to send this to somebody, you do need to turn on public. So under visibility and access at the bottom, just change this to public and hit save. I'm not going to do it right now just because I don't think I need to share this. But yeah, you just hit public and save, and then yeah, people should be able to access the link. Yeah, so I know it's a very simple project, but this is the basics of how you would go about building and sharing a game. Now that we kind of understand setting up a project and exporting, all that's left is basically just adding more content. So if we do another video, we can go into adding some main menu buttons, maybe adding a little guy that can run around. I'm sure people would love that. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you found this helpful, anything you would like to see. And yeah, hopefully I can do more of these kind of tutorials in the future. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Later.